everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers as the love and support. From the heart, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video to support the message. Thank you. Well, everyone, this is going to be a quick one. On this one, I want to touch on what I say a lot or has said throughout the time I've been on YouTube, right? Which is, be careful on them level 10s, level 12s that get out and they tend to take advantage of you not knowing how a person is and basically around drag and try to put a blindfold on your eyes. And I'm not saying everyone's like that gets out of prison. There's legit individuals, with a lot of love for the neighborhood, for their homies, act, please don't mistake my words. But, you know, as far as I learn, is be wise with everyone's words. Like I said, don't trust nobody, no one. And I include myself in that, right? It's always good to give someone the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, give them time because everything comes out. And them type of individuals, they'll eventually hang the rope, put something to climb on top, put the rope around their neck, and they'll jump off by their actions on their own. There's no need for you to take any type of action if you get what I'm trying to say. Nevertheless, on this one, I want to speak about Spooky from Huntington Park or from the neighborhood Corona Park. I be Spencer. As far as I got told, Corona Park is in Huntington Park, but if I'm wrong, my apologies, right? Anyways, he was from Corona Park. As I have mentioned to you, everyone before, when I took the Jardín in Ironwood, there was a lot of trash, right? Because all the individuals before me, they tend to like getting high. So they prefer sweeping things under the rug and allow people to keep hitting so they can keep getting high. And eventually that's how a good year ends up with a bunch of funnies. And nevertheless, Spooky and Ironwood, be honest with everybody, he was in touch with numerous appeals, but the main one was Popeye, from Harpies. But, he knew what he was doing. He had gotten out the shoe from a couple times. He was with it fully, right? And he supported a lot when that came about because a lot of people they split on their own, and there was those people that thought they were smarter than the next man. They stayed behind and kept trying to skate, right? That got dealt with. Nevertheless, shortly before I picked up my shoe term, he picked up a shoe term. It was a personal thing with another individual. He knew some individual from uh from IE, and basically homeboy Spooky said the individual was a rat, but they didn't have the papiros, the paperwork, right? Because once it's in black and white, there is no disputing it. There's no, oh, I could explain myself or them denying it. Once it's in black and white, you're done, point blank. So he didn't have it. So my objective is, I gotta show the other camarada for my his respects, right? And Güero had been on the yard, and I checked his paperwork, and nothing like that. It said. So I had to give him his respect and basically tell him what was being said about him, and since they got said, instead of me making it an issue, they were going to make it an issue amongst themselves, personal. You want to defend your pride of what he said about you, Simon. You want to stand on what you're saying, Simon. Okay. Unlock going inside, bring your pedazo, meet up in the middle of the yard and boogie. Go to town on each other till you can't no more because the tower or the guards get there, right? You guys decide it's your issue to deal with. So they did that, in both battles they left to the hole and I'm not gonna throw dirt, after each one of them went to separate shoes and I don't know where the issue went with them two after that, right? But they would have to answer up for it, both of them. One for calling a camarada a snitch with no paperwork, and the other one why he was being called a snitch. But in this case, Spooky was more in eggshells because he spoke on a camarada without the paperwork. The other vato just defended what was being said about him, and he's in his right. But I would end up, you know, going to town with that one individual, and would end up catching going to the hole, and I wasn't prepared to. I'm gonna be honest, Before this, I had done. Oh, there's no need to glorify, right? I had done other pegadas, and I got in away with. And I've always been prepared. And this one, I thought it was just gonna be that way, right? But the vato knew I was coming after him, so he pulled out, and things got handled the way they did. You know, for those that were there and know, what ended up happening. I ended up going to the shoe. You guys flip flop to a different yard. You guys get it. And anyways, we'll meet up in Tehachapi. In Tehachapi, homeboy was trying to clean up his issue by blood, lifting his hand, right? Certain things need to get done, and he raised his hand. And homeboy wasn't a lifer though. He was just reckless like that, right? Again, he was with it, but nevertheless, there wasn't much in the shoe, right? To do. To be honest, when the pili's there, it comes from them, you know. And when you have a pili at first, like Toro, there ain't really much to do except certain individuals that get there with a chaqueta already on them that Toro got to deal with it for someone else. You know, it was rare. Now with Tio Chino, it was a different thing. It was like almost every yard, right? But nevertheless, before Tio Chino, Homeboy ended up going to the main line, right? And from the main line, I would end up in Corcoran, and he would end up paroling. I know this because of his young homie, CB from Corona Park, you know. And I also came to learn, when he was on the main line, Homeboy got sent on a mission, and he was close to the house. But when you have a big mouth that I'm this, and that, you can guarantee it. Don't matter how much time you got left, they're gonna put steel in your hand to handle business for being a big mouth. You know, you talk a good one, okay, stand by it. and it's done on purpose. That's why it's better you just sit back, watch, analyze, and if your name gets called, vámonos, let's do this. But I was that idiot that I lifted my hand up for everything, and it's not good. It's not look good. Be honest with you guys. But nevertheless, this fool refused. He refused, but he didn't want to lock it up, right? Well, they made him lock it up. If you guys get it, they end up booking him on the yard. They made him lock it up, and this is Deceptive, you know. So as you guys know, in Corcoran, I was supporting a lot, and that included with Sativ. So when I heard that, it was like, the prison world is small. I always say it, and they will make him end up locking it up. He just said, "Charles, I ain't gonna follow program. I'm going home," and then he thought it was gonna be cool. Next thing you know, tres camaradas are on him, right, whacking him because of his mouth, straight up, But the point of the story is this, he would end up paroling, and he would end up paroling to a spot where I don't know if there was a lot of young battles or what, right? But even though he was no good, because he did like the last, we'll say, a year in SMY, right? One of them peseta yards, and he got out. A lot of vatos, I guess, from where he's from, didn't know, because they're not involved like that, right? They just seen an individual all tatted up. He knew a lot of names. He knew a lot of movidas that happened here and there from the time. So he came out playing, And I know so and so. I was here with so and so. I did this, and at one point he was doing everything. But at that point, he was trash. The point is, he brainwashed, his younger ones that he was speaking with a Billy, in this case, Popeye, right? And he started clipping his own neighborhood. We got to send so much up there. If you're slinging, we got to send a third, you know. So he was getting material in feria. The amounts, I don't know how he worked it, right? But regardless, he was doing in his neighborhood. And who ended up pulling his covers was Popo. You see something happen, they pull him in the station. Next thing you know, from being a big old doer, all the weenie came out, right? Hey, I'm this and that. I'm gonna protect the custody inside of there, cause there's that famous word, right? I debrief, and there's no such thing as debriefing on yourself. So I can't. You couldn't go into county jail. Period. Point blank. Imagine him trying to blend in with his younger homeboys in LA County Jail. It's gonna get virtue, and he knew it. So that's when his homeboys realized, what they have been doing. And then what happens next? Certain pillies that they were kicking down to at one point start questioning you. What happened through this time? You stopped sending and this and that, and you have to explain yourself. You got bamboozled by one of your own older homeboys that went south. It happens, and it happens a lot. Unfortunately, Popeye wasn't a scandalous individual like that, and in a sense, he understood. I'm not saying peaceful because, okay, you guys got to pay me so much and we leave it alone. And that's what happened, right? But imagine this fool came back, laughed it off again, went to Western White, and just basically laughed about his own neighborhood. And that's exactly what I mean. Be careful with those coming out of jail, prison. Not every individual that gets out the way he states it. If you got a homie that gets out and the first thing out of his mouth is tells you, look, here's my papitos where I last parole from. This this a wheeler straight from who I say I'm with, and shows you that respect, then embrace them. But if it's all mouth, don't listen to them. It is why I'm on here, with this message. I didn't have that on the streets. I went in there blindfolded, to be honest. That's why I try to paint an in look with my personal career, you could say, if you want to call it like that. Not to glorify. Again, I never been nobody, never expected to be nobody. I was simply just one more of thousands of fellows, right, from the cause. And someone gets out claiming something, remember you have the right to question that. You know, uh, Nothing ended up happening to Spooky no more. He went to the CC yard. The homies paid off and they kept boogieing, doing their thing. And but again, it's unfortunately. Imagine if he brainwashed them good enough to, hey, this vato when I was inside he's no good. Go dome him, and you could dome the wrong person. Then you're gonna hit county, and you're definitely out the picture. Them individuals has no love for your city, your neighborhood. There's also those ones that attempt to get out and paint jail as a walk in a park. There's nothing funny but headaches and heartaches. Be smart, stay true to yourself and loyal to loved ones.